Just checking. And the recording is in progress. So there we go. The other thing that we would normally do if this were like a regularly scheduled council meeting is we would live stream it to our Facebook page, but we don't live stream. We typically do not live stream the work sessions or the committee meetings just because it always seemed to me like there was a lot of static, but we as a new council, if we feel that it should be different, we can change those processes. So for today, sorry, I gotta close that. My screen is not enjoying me. Okay, so for today's agenda, what we would need to do some formational things, right? We need to discuss our committee assignments. We need to discuss rules of council. And beyond that, any legislation that is in flight. I didn't see any legislation on the agenda for Monday. So
as of right now, we passed everything except for the rules of council, which I believe we start from scratch.
Yeah.
Because David showed up, we were able to get that last piece done. So
right.
Unless we end up with something from Leah and Kim on Monday,
Beautiful.
Monday morning, I don't anticipate anything.
And Tiffany, was Eric coming to talk to us about the building stuff, or?
Yes, he drops off one of his children at 8 o'clock. So he usually comes, you should hear him in about 1 to 3 minutes.
Very good. Okay, so let us start off with the committee assignments, right? So as standing committees, we have, and I probably should have, well, I can go out to our website just to make sure I don't miss anything, but we have our streets committee. We have our, so streets, community, legislation, finance.
Community.
What am I missing? Huh?
Community.
I thought I said community already.
Yeah, you can say community.
Safety.
Safety.
And one more. What am I missing? Eric Fisher.
Legislative, legislative,
I
yeah.
said legislative.
Legislative, finance, community, communications.
Communications. That's the one that I was missing. So
Brian, go ahead.
Go ahead, Tiffany.
Oh no, I was gonna say I did talk to almost everybody, so I think the committee chairs, like maybe we can agree or disagree, but the way I saw it, if you want to jot it down,
Yeah.
is Brian would stay on finance, Mark would stay on legislative, David would go to safety, streets would be Stacy, Nikki would be communications, and Jason would do community. That's the way that I saw after talking to everybody. And then you guys can argue it based on that, but as a starting point. And then if I had my perfect world, the community then would also have David and Nikki, because I think they would both be perfect on that one, obviously. Unless again, somebody had an issue with that. And then there were some people that like Jason really didn't think, streets for the new section would be a great place for him. So let's try to keep him off that just because he's in the new section. And then what was the other ones? Because he's not here. I wanted to point that out. That was like the one that he was just like, that's about the only one he wouldn't be thrilled with.
Right.
So other than that, I think everything else is up for debate, but that was the conversations I had with some people. And anybody now speak, whatever you guys think.
I would need, probably in my opinion, I would need backup of the most experienced council members on streets, because this is like a huge deal. So I'm gonna need some help.
And you also have me, because I do talk to Mike Flickinger constantly.
Yeah,
and I definitely don't want to step on toes when it comes to this. It'll be great to have help. But I would say on a public record meeting, is it not nice to say that I still led streets for the last whatever short amount of time? So I would
It's
still
not
be there.
It's not a secret.
Yeah.
no,
So
I'm gonna need some mentoring.
I will be there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of been my baby, and it's one of those things that anything you need, it's having backup would be amazing. So with streets, I agree with you. We want for streets, because there are so many large projects still, you just want to make sure that we do have a couple people that are that know what we're doing. And I mean, it would be nice to have Brian or Mark on there. Maybe even David.
Expensive one too, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be the back of Jordan Road, but we're we passed up on a lot of things to do last year because they weren't ready to do it, but I've
Yes.
already started getting you road assessments and putting all that stuff back, and we'll probably start readings for that in the next month to get
Streets.
all that stuff done. So there's going to be a lot.
Streets also encompasses what used to be our services committee. So not only is it streets, it's also sewers, and it's the garbage contract and the leaf contract, and
Yeah.
all of that falls under streets. So yeah, if nobody has a problem with it, I would gladly join as a committee member to streets.
Okay.
And since my mouth is moving, I would, so if I'm chairing finance, I would sit on streets, and then I would like safety as my other one, unless somebody takes offense to that.
Mm-mm.
If we're opening our mouths,
Yeah.
hold our president, I would enjoy to obviously chair safety. Community is good. I would also like to remain on legislation if possible.
All right, hold on. I think I'm getting a system here to track all this. So safety.
Can you put it in the chat so everybody can see it?
What I will better do is I'm going to fire up a spreadsheet, and then we can sort of fill in a spreadsheet, and I'll share my screen. But give me 2 seconds to open up Excel.
And Tiffany, I'm open to suggestions. Wherever you think I'd fit the best is where I'm willing to go. My biggest thing was like streets, obviously, because I swear we need to talk to engineer. I swear our part of the street is sinking. Like there's always dirt and water on my curb nowadays.
I did talk to Mike Flickinger about that, and I told him you were going to be more than likely doing streets, and that was going to be one of the conversations.
Yeah.
He's doing that, I'll tell you. One of the first things that I would like to do, obviously tonight, if we can, today, we can start scheduling, or over the next 72, before Monday night, trying to get the first meeting scheduled for anybody that's able to do that. With you and any other council person, hopefully everybody, we would want to bring Mike in for the first meeting. And Mike would go over where we are, where we've been, and where we're going. And that is huge. He can do it during the day, and at night it does take a long time. I mean, it's going to be an hour to 2 hour meeting typically. And that's all I'll say about that. But that's where we would start with your first meeting, in my opinion, is bringing Mike in for a long meeting.
Yeah. I agree.
And then for you, I can tell you, I mean, we've gone in circles talking about it. Finance was one of the ones that came up with you. And other than that, see where somebody, I mean, I think safety would be good. There's no doubt in there, but the other one was, I think
Need someone on planning and zoning.
Oh yeah, well, yeah,
Morning all.
yeah, planning and zoning is going to be the other big thing that we're going to talk about.
Way to dampen that door. Okay, so
I will say I'm not the greatest with a budget, like full disclosure.
So they got me on community, and then
no, you were supposed to be communicate. Okay,
I'm
so-
chairing.
That's right.
I'm chairing communications, but they got me on community.
Yeah.
There's 2 other chairs open for safety, or 1 other chair,
See, yeah,
right?
so there's a chair and then 2 other committee members.
because I'd like to sit on safety if anybody, unless anybody has an issue with that.
No, and David, I missed, you had said chairing safety, and then you gave your other 2 preferences, and I didn't capture it.
Community and legislation. Community.
Yeah, I know, I was just copying and pasting, because one of the things I do very poorly is type on screen.
I said community. I said community, not communications and legislation.
Community, oh yeah, and I can't see straight.
That's okay.
No pressure.
Okay, yeah, nothing
Really?
harder than actually type, like sharing your screen and having people watch how you manipulate a screen. Okay, so Councilperson Bruger, and I'm just doing it because we have you here chairing legislation. Are there other committees that you are feel strongly about?
Go ahead and drop me in finance.
Okay.
And then it looks like I'm stuck with communications there.
Well, I mean, you're not stuck with anything. If you really don't feel like that's what you want to
No,
do.
communication
we
is
can-
fine.
Yeah. I mean,
Communication is fine.
we can have conversations if there are things that aren't getting filled. Okay, and councilperson costs, and I say that like that only because I have yet to ask you how you prefer to be addressed. Is it Anastasia, Stacy? How is
Anastasia's
it?
like when I mean business.
Okay, so then
Um,
it's Stacy it is?
yeah.
Okay.
I'm totally okay with legislation. Nobody else wants it. Like, I'm pretty passionate about changing the code and the wording. So
Yeah.
like I think legislation would be a good fit for me.
And you said not a budget, so communications.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's-
Or I'm pretty thrifty when it comes to that stuff. I'm just not super great around a spreadsheet with a budget. I will
Yeah.
tell you, I've
So
tried.
I will say, yeah, so in the legislative committee, it is a lot. So our finance director and our our finance people are the ones keeping the spreadsheets, right? We need to understand where money is being allocated and why, and to make certain that we are doing those allocations judiciously and appropriately and responsibly. We are not doing the math. I mean, we should be able to check their math, but we're not keeping the spreadsheets.
I'm good at math. I guess I'm not great at reading those spreadsheets. Like I've been through tons of them. So but my question is, would it be a better fit for me to do legislation and finance? Because then I can dip my feet in both of them and then it would be worthwhile because I know what's going on in both branches. Do you see
That's
what I
what
mean?
I did my first year. I recommend that as a good stepping point.
So
or
let's do
starting
that. Then I'm willing to do finance. Communications, obviously I talk a lot. I can do that without being on the chair.
And
All
anyone
right.
can attend any meeting. It's not like they're closed meetings.
Correct. Most of these are going to be over Zoom due to coronavirus, correct? As of right now?
So that is something that we will continue to discuss. I know that we had transitioned regular meetings back to in person, but I would imagine the chair, we all have to agree and we all need to do what's safe. I am 100% about safe
Yeah.
COVID
Well,
protocols, right?
as
So
a physician, I'm going to throw that out there.
Yeah,
Fine by
and I
me.
second that very much.
All right,
Okay.
so
I'm going to stop you real quick because you're going to come to an issue.
okay,
Well, you are and you aren't. The only thing Jason asked was to not have streets because that was his main thing over the new section does. Now, he didn't say he wouldn't do it, but they don't have the needs that we have for streets and sewers and
right.
the leaf bid. So the worst place we could put him would be right there.
Yeah,
Which
so-
Stacy's already on there, so that doesn't help. So I don't know if
Can
there's
you go to
somebody that,
communications?
yeah, so let's-
I think he would be good there, yes. Because
We
he's
can put
also
him
in the
in-
new section. How can we communicate to our new residents?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mark,
well, I'm already on streets.
Mark,
Burger, you want to join me on streets and we can?
Well, that's still not gonna help. I mean, it'll help, but it'll
Oh,
open.
he's already on communications. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm fine getting swapped over.
Yeah, no,
So
I
it's-
was already putting him in communications. So who?
who's left? McNamara?
I've
Wait.
got 3.
You've
So it
got-
would be safety or legislation that somebody's gonna have to switch from, but it can't be Stacy and it can't be, maybe
Yeah.
I'm wrong, because there's Bruger.
If I may suggest, I think he, even though he has got new streets, I think there's much to discuss. And I think as any councilman, it's a learning experience. I don't think he'll learn everything about the old section and about the street process, which will be beneficial long-term.
Yeah.
Next year you can always switch him up.
But you want to have skin in the game. You want somebody that really, you know what I mean?
Trust me, there's plenty of skin in the game.
We all have skin in these games, but my only hesitation in saying, put him in streets is that was the only thing you said. I'd rather not.
Yeah.
Right,
It's
if you're not
kind of
passionate about it, you're not going to do it.
Understood.
Yeah. But I'm already there. And I'm trying to. He's already there.
What if we only have 2 people on? Wait, do we just not have enough people? I'm on
No.
3. Bruger.
No, we have enough people.
Go ahead and switch me
Who are we
into
missing?
streets and him into finance.
That's
And
what I
I
was-
think we need at least 3 people on a committee for when they make votes and recommendations.
Yeah, that
'Cause
works.
in-
If we
in-
put,
Yeah,
in theory, sort of, not just in theory, it kind of does happen in practice as well. Committees are going to make recommendations, so you need to vote on whether or not to approve the recommendation or not. Mind you, some of that is just like, yes, the way that things are done properly, where you'll find out we're a small enough governing agency that things aren't always done super proper because it's, sit around and talk about it and say, okay, we're good with this. All right, let's move on. We're not a giant legislative body that needs to track things.
Yeah, we always follow the laws. Okay. Just throwing a needle in there. Yeah, Mark, so I heard you right. You were okay moving from
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
finance to streets? Okay. Excellent. Then unless anybody has a concern with these committees as they are displayed on your screen right now, and I guess I could make it bigger so that it would be easier for people to see. How about that? Then we will call those the committees.
and then Brian, is there a way you could just forward that to assistant? So
Yeah.
she can update the website.
I will do that.
Awesome.
All right, next up, Eric Fisher had reminded us that we need a planning and zoning liaison. Is anybody super excited about doing that?
And as a reminder, that's going to be Wednesday nights at 7 p.m.
Yeah,
Typically 2 Wednesday nights. So you would need Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. free.
Typically first and third Wednesday.
First and
I
third.
would love to do it, but I feel like I'm starting a new job soon, so I feel like that's just in theory for sure. And I will be there in spirit as much as I can, but I can't commit to being there.
fair enough.
That's where I'm at right now as well.
Mhm.
That's not how you spell liaison. That's not how you spell liaison either.
SON.
SON?
Yeah.
That looks dangerous. Okay.
So-
Anybody else raising their hand for planning and zoning? If
Mark,
not-
you're the veteran. We'll make it easy on you.
Huh?
So Mark's the other veteran still.
Yeah, no, I'll do it.
I
I've
appreciate that,
actually
sir.
had an interest for a while. All
Okay.
right, and then the last sort of formational one like this to discuss is we have always had an MPCA liaison.
Who is-
Anybody excited to do that?
It's typically the chair of the community committee or
Yeah.
communication.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And with communications, I don't mind doing that. I'm familiar with everybody on the MPCA board. I think it would be awesome if they felt a little bit, supported. I know, David, that I was talking to some of them yesterday. They said that you supported them a lot. So if you're okay with communications doing that, I'm perfectly okay with that.
Yeah, certainly. I did my best, but towards the
It's hard
second
working
half of my
nights.
tenure, I switched it over to Diane because I just had my work schedule wasn't working with it. But yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate that was the impression they had because I felt
Yeah.
more like kind of let them down for a while, but
No, they get it. And then with communications and Diane, have we switched over who's doing the newsletter? Is now the time to ask for that?
Okay, so as of right now, because the January newsletter was before we determined all of this. So as of right now, Diane is going to continue to do exactly what she's been doing until we tell her otherwise.
Awesome. That's amazing. And I'm going to find a time to meet with her before that first communication. That way I can kind of see where she was at. We've shared a couple ideas. That way maybe we can kind of continue on the progress that she has made over the, last couple of years as well.
Perfect. So yeah, anytime you want, just let me know. And if you guys want to do it at the community building, yeah, however you guys want to do it is totally fine. There was 2 other things to talk about for 30 seconds, Brian. And if you don't want to talk about this today, we do not have to.
Go ahead.
The other thing that people, that some residents think we should be more involved in is the NCC and it's the Northland community.
Yeah.
Okay, so that meeting, I don't even know what day of the week it is. That meeting, is now in person. And also the commercial section of, I don't know exactly what they're called. Does anybody, I feel like it's NCC and something else. Either way, it is the Northland community. They have a meeting that's actually a lot of the HOA leader of the HOAs. So Forest Hills and all the way up into New Albany and Strawberry Farms and all of the area, one representative from each one of those places, including Minerva Park. They get updates on the Northland community upcoming, Jenny Lynn, I know there's a lot of people, the residents that are involved, but this is actually the meeting that you go to that goes over everything. Over the last couple of years, Bob Gale has been doing it. I believe he is still going to do that one. The one that I have the issue with is the one that I've been doing. I'm going to be honest with you. It's about a 4 to 5 hour meeting, and it's on the last Wednesday of the month. And I'm just going to tell you that it's very difficult to get to, and have an extra 4 or 5 hours. But I do know that there are times in which it affects our area. You do get a list of the ones that will be discussed. You have to attend at least 2 a year in order to kind of stay with them. We did do that last year, but it would be nice if we had a little bit more representation there. This might be, again, something Jason would be interested in. So I'm throwing it out there that it is an in-person meeting. As of right now, to segue into the next conversation we were about to have, the actual council meetings still do in fact have to be in person. Any of our other meetings can be done virtually.
The
As of
state
now,
law
that-
didn't, the
They
state
did not
law,
extend.
they didn't,
No.
okay. Yeah.
Not
Are
at
we
this time.
keeping them on the same days?
That'll be the next discussion.
Okay.
So let's segue to that. So I don't know that I need an NCC person right this minute. But the last week of January, if anybody wants to even test out the waters, the last week of January, it's on a Wednesday, you get an invite. You can't, typically I have to give them your name, who's going. So it'd be nice to know at least 24 hours in advance. But if somebody has, and the first one I went to was 5 hours. The second one was 4 hours. I don't know that they're always that long. But it was very difficult to sit through for, I don't know who has an extra 5 hours on a Wednesday night, but a lot of people do because they were there. So,
Mayor, if I can jump in a comment on the
Yes.
community one real quick. So I have other outside projects, and I've been attending a couple of these commissions with Columbus, and they are horrendously long. I will say though that the other ones have a Zoom component to them now. And since our member would be non-voting, they may be, if the North is doing a Zoom component for people to get into it, that's a good way to attend and listen in without having, because you'll spend.
oh, we get to vote on the NCC one, the one at the end
Oh,
of the
we're
month. We
actually
get to vote.
on the commission.
Yes, we are.
There was a big argument. I went on Wednesday night to the North Linden, and because of the snowstorm, they didn't get a quorum, but they had all their members there by Zoom, but their representative from Columbus told them they couldn't vote by Zoom, even though they're a non-binding
Right.
type commission. It's
Yes,
strange. Columbus
yeah,
may
no,
let them do it again.
We're
but-
actually on it. No, we get to vote. So,
Yeah.
just as an FYI. So, I mean,
Okay.
it can be important. It's a really good discussion. I mean, there's, again, if I had the extra time and if I knew that it was an event that was going on close by. So maybe if, people just kind of, I don't want to take up the meeting time for that, because I know we've got some really important things, but that's something that it would be nice if we had a council person that was doing it. Other than that, my next step is, and it can be a resident, because again, Bob Gale typically does the first one. If anybody knows anybody that would be interested, have them reach out to me. For the most part, it would be great to have somebody that has a little bit of knowledge in commercial, because it's mostly incoming gas stations, incoming apartment buildings, incoming things like that.
Right. All right, why don't we put a pin in that, and we'll
Okay.
put it into old business. We'll just
Perfect.
revisit it at the meeting to give people a chance to digest the
Yes.
opportunity and consider it. And
I have a
then maybe
question.
we,
though. Can it
Yeah,
be the
sure.
same person, or can we just switch off? Just so we have representation, or is that counterintuitive?
Honestly,
Then we won't
no,
have-
I think we can have two. I think we can have two. And I would honestly recommend that, because if we could at least get to maybe 6 meetings a year, that would probably be extremely beneficial.
so yeah, we can extend that conversation to a later meeting. And then Mayor, so let's see, things that have already come up. Mayor Hughes, you brought up that the state did not extend the legislation to allow us to continue to have our regular council meetings via Zoom.
Correct,
So it
because you
sounds
cannot
like
vote.
those,
Yes,
the votes can't be over Zoom, so those are gonna have to be in person despite, you know, the world as it is. So that
and if
leads us
that
to,
changes, we'll bring it to you. And Eric, I
Yeah.
am still correct about that. Is that accurate? Because you just said
Oh,
you went
I
through that.
believe that's accurate. Jesse,
Okay. Oh, Jesse's on here.
yeah,
That's
Jesse's
correct.
on there.
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, any legislative action has to be taken in person. So
in person.
Yeah, and I have a follow-up on that, Jesse, for the council. So since the committees themselves are making non-binding recommendations, they, however, they could be on Zoom, correct?
correct.
Okay.
So the way that we'll move forward with that, in my opinion, is Stacy, if you set yours up for 5 o'clock at Zoom, or you can say my meeting's at 5 o'clock via in person. So I would leave that up to the chair and the committee to discuss individually and let them decide. If there's only 3 of you, nobody else is coming, and you want to be in person or you need to look at whatever, I would say leave that up to the chair. The
Yeah.
committee, sorry, the whole committee.
Yeah, that seems fair to me. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. Yeah, does anybody have, I mean, that's sort of just a kind of is what it is, right? Because we have to comply with state law. Now, so this gets us next to scheduling those regularly scheduled meetings. Historically, they have been on Mondays at 7 p.m. the second Monday of the month and the fourth Monday of the month. Part of the year last year, we had adjusted to Tuesdays to accommodate one council person's class schedule. But yeah, and Mark was nice enough to acknowledge that was him. You're welcome. But now as a group, right, this does get incorporated into our rules of council, but it's for us to decide, right? If there's any one day that works better than another, right? I do think that it should be a set day. I find
Yes.
that, if it's going to be Mondays or Tuesdays or Thursdays, it should be something that works always on a Monday, always on a whatever. Yeah. Outside of Councilperson Brugger's one scheduling issue, I thought that Mondays always worked well for me, but I'll let anybody speak their preference at this time.
I'm gonna give my 2 cents on this. Again, I do have skin in the game. I'm there every single week.
Friday night.
And that's fine. Let me tell you the issue with Tuesday night. I actually preferred it Tuesday night. So Mark, thank you for bringing that to light. The reason that it was really nice on Tuesday nights was when we have these Saturday work sessions and you guys ask Eric to do something, myself to do something, you ask Eric to look, or Jesse to look into something. It's very difficult to get the information by Monday night. Anytime we have legislation, if you guys are asking legislation, as well as finance, trying to get a hold of Kim and trying to get finance stuff fixed by Monday in order to get the packet up on the website and everything really has to kind of be done by noonish, 1-ish on Monday. That is very difficult to do. So if you don't get it done, you have to wait 2 more weeks until we can get it in front of everybody. As you guys are aware, we do legislation. Sometimes it does have blanks in it for that reason. And nobody's really given me a hard time about that, but that's why some of those blanks are there. So Tuesday for us was kind of eye-opening for admin that it gave us more time for the agendas. It gave us more time to have accurate information. The conflict is Jesse is not able to be there for the main meeting on Tuesday of the first meeting of the month. Jesse would be able to be there the second meeting of the month on Tuesday, which we could always flop that one would be the actual business one. And the first one would be more of like the legislative one. Obviously this week, that's not really going to matter because nobody's going to have reports. Nobody's going to have anything. So the only push for Tuesday, and again, we would never have known that it was nice for us, but that was the big reason that it was nice for us. We've always done it on Monday. We've always figured it out. There's just things that might not get done as fast if it's on Monday. So it's other than that, whether it's Monday night or Tuesday night does not matter to me. It just made it easier for admin.
And then the room itself has a conflict on Wednesdays with planning and zoning, right? We wouldn't
Correct.
want to,
No.
Right?
I wouldn't
Um,
even consider another date. I think at that point, you're really throwing wrenches in, but that's just me.
So I was gonna ask about Thursdays.
I guess I shouldn't say that. Yeah.
Yeah, because yeah, Fridays is a non-starter. Nobody wants
Yeah.
to
No.
party with council on Friday nights. But yeah, Thursday also has some appeal to me. I mean, I will admit that I have a way lower priority standing engagement Tuesday nights that council on Tuesdays would conflict with, but I certainly would, it's not a hill I'll die on. So but if Thursday was available, I think, and it works for everyone, I think that brings all of the advantages of your Tuesday. And I can do my thing Tuesday nights.
And
And I
I'll
have no
second-
issue with Thursday.
Yeah, I'll second that from a staff and from Jesse's standpoint, for those that have outside projects in other communities, avoiding our meetings on a Tuesday or Monday entirely frees up that ability. So that's not the deciding factor, but we'll just say, I think that works for Jesse and me pretty well.
It does.
Thursday works. I think it's
Thursday
great.
works for everyone.
Yeah, because I think it's a
I'm
great.
with Thursday.
There's a little bit more time to digest everything and then come back to it and then discuss it. Sorry, there's screaming in the background.
Babies do that.
Yeah, she's just as talkative as her mom, I guess. I think Monday, I do agree. I think that's just not enough time to get things done in between. Tuesday works for me as well, but if everybody else has Tuesday or Thursday are actually the best days for me personally.
Yeah, I'd lean more towards Tuesday just because of what I'm
Me too.
used to.
Me
But
too.
Thursdays, I could work with Thursday, I suppose. I'm not trying to impede Brian's whatever he's got going on.
Oh, it's completely a social commitment. It's not a business thing. It's just a regular get together that I participate in.
I
So,
can make either work. I mean.
all
I'm
right.
fine with either.
Now, before we make it completely final, we would want to check with chief. We would want to check with everybody. So I think, maybe if you guys want to do like a round, so in my opinion, Tuesday's just not as good for everybody. So I would say stick with Monday or Thursday. And then kind of, you guys all decide based on that. Leave it alone on Mondays.
Not really great for me because I'm the trustee, so I have Monday meetings like once every month or something too.
Mhm.
Monday's not super great for me, to be
Yeah,
honest.
so I think it's really between Tuesday, Thursday. The downside on Tuesday is that the first regular Tuesday meeting, Jesse wouldn't be able to join us. And Thursday's all upside. So
I agree.
not that I'm a salesperson or anything, but yeah, so unless I think you were leading up to a straw poll, but I think I'd rather just put it like this. Does anybody have a strong feeling against Thursdays? If you do, speak now. Otherwise, we're just going to call it Thursdays.
Okay. Do you want me to check with chief first or no?
Well, no, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
it goes into our rules of council, and we can't actually change our rules of council
For
until
3
we've
meetings,
adopted
yeah.
it. So we need a meeting. So we need to have the meeting Monday, right? Because that's when it's scheduled as of rules of council now. And then hopefully by Monday, we'll have an answer from Bell. Make sense?
Are we on the third reading or it failed? So we have to do the
It
first reading.
failed, so we have to start all over again. So
Okay.
now, yeah, so now this leads us all into our rules of council discussion. I don't know if our new members have read through the proposed rules of council or not. I'm seeing a yes and a mostly, so that's good by me. I mean, to broad stroke it, it's mostly how we do business, right? When our meetings are, sort of the Robert's rules sort of process that we get things done, that kind of stuff. In the current drafted proposed rules of council that failed, there were two primary changes. The first being around citizens' comments, right? So to give you the changes, right? In the previous rules of council, we had 8 sections of the meeting that a person could submit a green card and comment at each one of those 8 sections, plus citizens' comments. So they had, if if memory serves, they had 9 chances to address council for a maximum of 3 minutes at each. Our rules of council did state that they were limited to addressing council 3 times through the course of the meeting. But I believe, and Jesse, you can keep me honest on this, we could never have enforced that. If somebody really, if we were, anytime you are inviting people to address council, they need an opportunity to address council. Otherwise, there's a First Amendment conflict.
Right.
So that meant that anybody with enough zest in them had 24 minutes at their will to address council. And that's a lot, right? And in my experience, when you have someone with enough zest, they will do their darndest to fill up that time. And a lot of it is less than productive. And what was proposed and written into that draft rules of council was, instead of 8 bites at the apple, they get 1 bite at the apple, right? So there would be 1 portion of the meeting for citizens' comments. It would be after all of the reports have been given, right? So all of the village official reports, all of the council committee reports, right? But before legislation was read. And the intention for putting it in that place is that, you know, if you don't allow people to speak on the legislation on the agenda for that day before the legislation is read, then their words can have no impact, right? But it also gives them the opportunity to consume all of the reports to speak on what they just heard in those reports. And then it was a 5-minute window. So instead of 3 minutes, we expanded it to 5 minutes, which, you know, except for me, who I am as verbose as they come, 5 minutes is a long time to talk.
So I know this has been abused in the past, as I was present when this happened. I do kind of have a problem with that. I think it should be 9 minutes, because that's what it was 3 times. Is that correct? Correct me if I'm wrong. It was 3 times at 3 minutes each. So shouldn't we just continue that time? Otherwise, I feel like we're censoring people. That may be a strong word, but as much as I know how this is going to go, I think 9 minutes would be a little bit more fair. That's currently my thought process.
There's also the side issue of, if you give them the 9 minutes, and I have seen council allow this, is can they cede their minutes to someone else who really wants to be verbose? So I think that has to be addressed on the side along with that request.
I think
Is
you
it
have to
even
really
legal
draw
for us
that
to
line.
modify someone from doing that, or to prohibit for someone from doing that?
The other thing that I see is, if you do that, then people are going to accuse you of not listening to, you know, to the residents, and you don't want to do that. You want to have open communication. So just like limiting that, to me, just even that action, as much as this is what needs to happen for us to be more productive in a lot of ways, I just feel like that just sends a negative, it's a
So,
negative connotation to everything, and I don't want that.
From my experience, they are going to accuse us of not listening to them no matter what.
I don't want to give them
Right.
more chances to do that, though.
I
I think
hear
it would be
you.
helpful in the discussion. Jesse, could you just say what council has to do, you know, to meet the First Amendment requirements, and then what flexibility is from there?
No, I mean, there's a lot of flexibility. As long as it's clearly spelled out and all the residents know what they're permitted to do and the expectation is clear. I work in a few other municipalities. They vary. So it really is up to you, as long as it's clear and known to the residents. I know ones that hold citizens' comments to 5 minutes. I know some that do 10. As long as it's clear, then it really is up to you to set your rules to allow the public's work to be done.
Yeah, so 9 minutes. So here's my concern with saying, okay, you get one shot at it and you have 9 minutes. It is really hard for someone to speak for 9 minutes, but I have a feeling that people will do their darndest, and we would actually be doing them a disservice, because if they think they have to talk for 9 minutes, they will dilute their own message.
My thought process is nobody's really going to use up that time, but they have the ability to
Why?
use it. So it's just
They will.
the illusion that it's there if you need it. But I don't
I-
think a lot of people would go to 9 minutes.
I feel you. I think that it is for many it will be an illusion. For many, for some, it will be, I'm going to talk for 9 minutes, and they're going to be real salient for about 3, right? And then they are going to wander for 6 and lose the thread, and we have just done them a disservice by encouraging them to talk for 6 more minutes.
I mean, I
That's
know
my
who
thought.
You're talking about. I
Huh?
agree with you. I know who you're talking about. I
Yeah.
understand.
And it's not actually just one person.
No,
right?
it's not just one.
I see that happening all the time. Heck, if you let me talk long enough, I will lose my thread, and we'll be like, what was I just talking about? Oh, Star Wars. How did I start talking about Russian occupation of France? Right? Like you just let a person keep talking, and the thread gets lost. And because these are people who are typically not professional communicators, who typically are speaking extemporaneously, more rope isn't going to help them, in my opinion.
Like the consensus on what is the median? Like what's most common? I know that there's different kind of ranges of that, but what's most common?
Usually a 3 to 5 minute range, right, Jesse? I mean, that's
Yeah,
my
I was gonna say-
experience, is probably yours.
Yep, 3 to 5 minutes is,
And one time.
yes,
Okay.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what most of the people who've attended in my brief time have been able to go before they start to run out of steam or lose the plot.
Yeah. I mean, it is a long time.
But I agree with you. I want as little perception of censorship or unavailability to communicate as possible as well. I like the proposed change for what it's worth.
Yeah.
But I can definitely see where you're coming from, and I would not be opposed to increasing the time if that's the direction the council as a whole wants to go in.
What if
So, go ahead.
sorry, go ahead. Tiffany.
I'm just going to say, being on both sides of it, I would also, because obviously, everybody knows that that's how my venture started as well. I would agree that 9 minutes, I would agree that 3 to 5 minutes, 3 is a little short. I think at 3, you really feel like if you just had that 1 more minute, it would be great. So I think giving people 5 minutes, in my opinion, is perfect. I do agree that there will be people that will take advantage of the 9 minutes. If it is that big of an issue, don't forget all of our emails are on the website. We can direct them to email, and most of them do. I think, the whole point of the council meeting is to do the business of the village. If we have 10 people that come in there, we're obviously going to know that there are residents that are upset about something. And I think that at that point, you need to, really take a hard look at exactly what you're doing. So I think the residents showing up the residents all showing up is going to show you that there's issues. When you have one resident that has one specific issue, in my opinion, getting 5 minutes to talk about it is plenty, because other than that, that should probably be an issue that is addressed outside of the meeting, or at least you now know that there's an issue and there should be a way to address it. In the last couple of months, the issue that was brought to light that somebody was upset about was being resolved outside of the meeting, but we still spent a lot of council and our paid employees and everything else to be there. So, there was an issue that involved 4 residents, and 3 of the residents, I don't know if all 3 have been resolved. I know two out of the 4 have definitely been resolved. And that was better handled outside of a meeting. So again, I think that you do start to lose steam. 5 minutes is plenty. If we find that it's not, I think that we revisit it. I think that we do this and see exactly what it's going to do. But everybody knows my door is always open. Your guys' email addresses are always open. And guess what? When you're walking down the street, your neighbor's going to find you if they have an issue. I don't think we're closing off the communication. I think we're stopping, not stopping, but slowing down the meeting. Again, most of these things are going to come from a committee. Maybe they come to the committee meeting. Maybe there's all kinds of opportunities for people to get involved that's really upset with certain things. I just think having the chief sit there for 9 minutes, having 5 residents come and just kind of mumble for 9 minutes, because I think after 3 to 5 minutes, you've said your point. And I think with what I said,
If I can throw out one more opportunity that is available to citizens in our rules of council to address council is that there is the opportunity to request to be an agenda item,
Right, right.
right? And so I would think that if I really had something that I had 9 salient minutes of words to give, I wouldn't want to be and also, hey, this other thing, I would want to be an agenda item, right? So maybe
Right.
we can that the horse trade here is if we say 5 minutes, but there's a concern that people have more to say, we can throw that out there, right? So we've always had our green cards statement at the beginning of these meetings. Instead, we add to the statement at the beginning of the meeting, citizens are invited to comment during citizens' comments. At this point, you are limited to 5 minutes. If you feel you have more than 5 minutes to say, we encourage you to email the mayor or the whatever to get yourself slated as an agenda item.
And just to follow up on that, this is a great beginning topic or a continuing topic on the communications committee, because quite frankly, if that's the concern, then how to be better communicative with your residents, where do they go, how do they do it? That's wonderful. And then it can always be adjusted down the road. But our experience from staff and experienced council members is you definitely want to keep it in the 3 to 5 minute range. That's why the majority of communities do it. And, we want to keep the business nice and efficient as possible.
And then I have another follow-up question. I have a lot of questions.
Question away.
My kind of, when I was watching the meetings like at home on Facebook Live or whatever, I do think that we should keep an eye on the comments. I know there's no like green card and stuff, but there's no way for people that are virtual to really submit questions. We should kind of work on that.
And that's, for now, since those meetings will now be in person, there's nothing. I think we do retain all the green cards. Huh?
Not true. Barb can read the questions as we go along on Facebook Live. There's ways to do it.
Wait,
You mean the ones that they submit?
Yeah.
You mean hearing the people? Is that what you're saying? Hearing the people who are.
Like, some people make comments as they're watching the Facebook Lives under the comment section.
Oh, you mean you want Facebook Live read into the meeting?
Yeah. Why can't we do that?
Oh, okay. I'll let you guys deal with that one.
Well, first off, Barb isn't present at every meeting, correct?
Yeah.
Well, I can keep an eye on it. Somebody can. Or I guess my thought process is, why is it a bad idea? Because I think like a lot of people still need to engage and they're at home. So
Well,
why
again,
can't we do that?
I guess the business of the meeting is not to, don't take this the wrong way, Councilman. I think the issue is, again, from our experience, if we're looking for an efficient meeting, Facebook comments can get, as we know, Facebooky. I don't know a better way to put that, right? And if you start reading those into a live meeting, that can be distracting and that can be problematic. What I would suggest is, this is a great topic for your communications committee. How can it be integrated? Where can we put it after the fact? Just like if a resident sees a meeting, comes in after the fact, there's multiple ways, I think, to deal with that. Again, without sticking them right into the meeting, because then it'll just, again, slow things down if the goal is an efficient meeting.
Well, I agree with you there, but yeah, Nikki, I think, you can help me with that too, but there's efficient and then there's productive, and you want both.
I mean, if they're actually like, I don't think that we should ever stop a meeting for that, but say they're rewatching this and they say, at cost, how to blah, 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 blah. After that meeting, when we're going through that, the right person, communication chair goes and says, Anastasia, this person would really like your feedback. Or we reply, this is council person Costa's email. She would love to discuss this with you further. Do that after the fact. That way we're not slowing that meeting down.
Yes.
Well, my only thing is you have to be present to submit that green card to be able to ask a question. Why can't there be like a virtual green card as well? Are we worried about efficiency or like, because, sometimes that's more productive, because I feel like as much as we think that those Facebook comments can get daunting, and I agree with that, but from my experience, what I've seen is they've been on point. They've been real questions and nobody's really abused that.
That's funny, because I was going to say exactly the opposite, that when I've looked, I've never felt that I have rarely felt that they were very good. But so I think that conceptually we are talking, while people use their opportunity for citizens' comments to ask questions, I don't actually, it is not a point in time or a place for a conversation, right? Those citizens' comments are not meant for asking questions and getting answers. They are a point in time for a citizen to speak their thing. It is not meant for a back and forth, right? So if what I'm hearing is that people's questions need answers, I think that we could come up with another forum for
Okay.
people's questions to get answers, but I don't believe that citizens' comments is the place for that.
And I'll
Here's-
work on something like that, but I think also our main goal should be having our residents present at our meetings, being more active within our community. I mean, I understand that they have small questions, and again, let's all kind of talk to Diane, kind of see what her ideas are on that. But overall, if someone has a serious question, they're going to come to that council meeting to get that answered. And then again, I don't want the other people on Facebook to feel like their question is, you know, less respected or less important. So I definitely want to find a way to where that's handled appropriately. However, not stopping our meeting time and making sure that we're staying on track.
My
I-
purpose of this is to bring everything into the 21st century, where as much as everything is on like in person, that's not how the world works anymore. And I do think we need to have a bigger online presence is kind of the overarching feeling that I have.
I'd be
Jesse,
very
what did you
supportive.
My only concern legally on that is that if you read one comment, you almost are binding yourself to read all of them, whether they're topical or not, because I don't want any of us to have to make decisions on the fly about what is or is not relevant. The easiest way there is to keep a record, which I know we do, of the comments, and then address them after the meeting.
Okay, why can't
Or
maybe
publish
I
them
don't
as a
know,
digest.
maybe we can work on something where it's like a virtual green card or something too, where I think that would be appropriate.
The idea of them sending in like a virtual green card, not a bad idea. I will just go on record. Facebook, of course, is garbage.
Yeah.
It is a terrible program. It's a terrible company. I'll say it. I don't care. If I spend 3 minutes a day on it, it's a lot. And I go, why did I even do that? There's like 3 people who post funny things that I like to see, and I only got to see one of them today. And it's not official village communication, and it should, in my opinion, never be used for official village communication.
Oh, I agree with
We
you.
put it out there as a video platform to stream the meetings on because it is the most convenient, free streaming video service. We don't have a public access channel that we can do and put it on that instead. So that's sort of why we do it that way, is like, well, this is probably the best. And we already have a problem with people thinking Facebook is a reporting method for the village. You know, oh, something's going down here and there's a speeder and the police should do something about it. Then call the police, because putting it on Facebook is screaming into a pillow. You know,
Yeah,
as I've
the
often
speeder is
said
still
about this.
for the next town.
And yeah, and dipping any more of a toe into using it as an official village communication, I think is just no
No,
good.
I
No
agree with
good.
you. I'm
no
not-
good.
So
I'm
if
saying it doesn't have to be Facebook. It can be Vimeo, which is free too,
Yeah.
and better quality.
There's-
And that way it's more accessible, or YouTube or whatnot. But my underarching kind of point is that I do think that we need to address people that are online, because that's how the world works. We can't just expect people to just.
Well, and if they have questions, then that's why all of our emails are linked to the
as well as
website.
I'm reasonably certain we have a ask us questions button on the website, right? There are ways for people with digital presences to ask questions of the village administration and council people. But what I want to say is that is a wonderful thing for the communications committee to work on. This discussion is about proposed rules of council. So what I have gleaned, and I will do my best to summarize, that the proposed change of 5 minutes at the appropriate place in the agenda as discussed was generally acceptable to people, particularly if we express how one could get more time on the agenda if they felt that's what they wanted. Is that a fair summarization of what we have in front of us regarding that portion of rules of council?
Yep, correct.
Okay, then the other point of pain in the previously drafted rules of council was revolved around, or was in regards to removing the Pledge of Allegiance from our agenda, right? I will tell you that this was something I proposed. I will again share why I propose it. And yeah, so I propose it because I feel that it is a bit of performative patriotism. I feel that patriotism is in modern day world has been co-opted by parties that I would rather not associate with. I feel that it calls upon a deity, which is non-inclusive to me and many other people. I feel that it does not advance the business of Minerva Park, which is what these meetings are about. And I will say that this is not really a hill that I will die on regarding having it in the agenda. However, if it is in the agenda, I'm not going to stand. So you can know that probably what will happen is, if you really want people to show up, keep it in the agenda, because as soon as they find out I'm sitting, we'll have lots of people show up to yell at us about that.
But my personal, I get it. And as a matter of fact, Brian, after I went to that last meeting, I spoke with probably 7 residents, some of them service people, and you would be actually surprised. There was quite a few service people that agreed with you. They sent me lots of articles. So I have been researching this since that day. So I do see that side. I just think with us being the place where it's a good way to start the meeting. We're not, I get all your points, but it's also saying that we're going to be fair. We're going to listen to all our residents. It's, but I don't think you should be forced to stand either. I think it should be optional, but I don't think it should be removed.
If I can ask, where in the Pledge of Allegiance does it say anything about us being fair?
One nation under, justice for all. Justice for all.
Has
So
that?
but my point is, if you're saying that you're going to sit down and we will have a room full of people, how is that any different than you saying, let's just remove it?
Okay, if you're pointing to justice for all is us saying we're going to be fair and listen to people, has that justice for all and I don't know, we've only been saying the Pledge of Allegiance, I think around 100 years. Has every school kid saying justice for all every day applied or gotten us justice for all?
Why don't we also giving respect to the fact that people can sit here and disagree without that flag, without that Pledge of Allegiance, regardless of what it comes from. I get that. I see both sides, and there's got to be both sides on some of these topics. However, and yeah, there's not justice for all right now. That can be part of it too. You are absolutely correct. However, the fact that people can call in and say, you know what, I disagree with that. You know why you can disagree with that? Because of that flag and the many that has bloodshed over that flag. I'm not saying, I just don't think it should be removed. Now, if you want to sit down, I think you are fully allowed to do that. Anybody. And then if we do have people come in, that's one thing. But I honestly think if we remove it and the residents find out, I think more will be infuriated. I really do. And what does that, you know what I mean? That's my personal opinion. But I did want to tell you that I did research quite a bit. And I see your guys' point on that. 100%. I just don't think it should be removed fully.
All right. Hey, like I said, I'm not a hill. I'm going to go ahead, Stacy.
I'm with Wolf on this one, but why can't we take a poll and see how many people would actually be mad if we remove it?
A poll of
That's
the
an awesome
village.
idea.
I think we should have more involvement of the people instead of making decisions for them without asking people. Like, that's my biggest thing.
This is representational democracy. That's us making decisions on behalf of the people is what we raised our hands to do. Like you can't rule by referendum
without asking something. I'm not going to like do something without like researching it first.
Well, sure. Right. Do some research, but it like what you're so here is you know, what you're asking for is a, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a logic, it's an ad populum logical fallacy, right? Just because everybody agrees on something doesn't mean it's right,
That's true.
right? So
But the
even,
whole
even
thing
if,
is, our biggest problem right now is the lack of communication with the residents, correct? So if you do something without asking somebody and then they find out and it's like a controversial topic, I think we're gonna have problems. You can't just do these things. You
So
have to.
council members, if I may step in real quick, I have a suggestion on that's related to the poll. And I had mentioned to the mayor before the end of the year, one of the things we need to reapproach and do this every few years is our survey, which went quite well the last time we did it. And we need to talk about that with questions for the questionnaire and stuff. If it's important to council members to ask certain questions, we can certainly add certain questions in there so you can get a firmer idea. And I don't know if it's something that you want to spend a lot of time in this discussion on here. You know, it's something I think from representative government, it's just staff's opinion, mine. You are elected to represent your people. So, you know, at some point, you're going to have to address the council rules issue, and it's going to have to be how you feel. Now, longer term, we have a way to do a poll. So I just want to add that in there.
Okay, I'm with the poll. I'm not gonna do something that nobody else wants to do just because I decide that that's what I want to do. I'm with you, Wolf. Like, I get it, but you can't just basically
hey,
force your opinion on other people.
so here's the interesting thing. My interesting thought on that is that we did council meetings via Zoom for about a year and didn't say the Pledge of Allegiance once, and the world did not, there was zero negative impact, right? So binding someone to say the Pledge of Allegiance can have a negative impact. So I am saying that it is a net benefit to not say it, is what I'm
I'm
saying.
just saying,
You
if
don't know that
we
without polling.
vote that through, if we vote through that we're gonna stop the Pledge of Allegiance, I think our residents, I just don't think they would like that. I honestly, I think a poll would surprise a lot of us. But again, I see both sides, but again, we got to do what's best for the residents, what the residents agree on. We have a lot of service members out here, man. We really do, people that have fought for those freedoms. You got a lot of immigrants in our community that have waited their entire lives on that citizenship test to take that Pledge of Allegiance to become American citizens.
So
Okay.
yeah, I'm going to say this, and then I think I will ask if anybody has anything new to say, and then we will move on. But it is disheartening to me to hear that someone thinks that the freedoms that they fought for or the citizenship that they worked so hard for is saying the Pledge of Allegiance, because the Pledge of Allegiance is really not any
To
of
you
that.
though, but that's to you.
But well,
It-
I
Depends on the person. So as much as I agree with you. I don't like it. I don't care for it. I'm an immigrant, whatever. But that's what it means to me personally. And I am not going to force my opinions on the whole village. I want to know what the village thinks, and I'm going to do what the village wants to do. That's my biggest issue, is you can't just I'm not going to force my personal opinion on everybody else. That's not how a democratic government works, period.
right.
Either point, that's all we're doing here, though, because if we keep the pledge, we are saying some people want it, so we will force it on everyone. If we get rid of it, we're saying some people don't want it, so we'll force it on everyone. I have a feeling if we sent out a survey to all 800 homes, we would get maybe 100 responses, and
But then at least we've
You
tried
know,
and we're going by what our
20,
residents want.
20%, yes, it's important, 20%, no, it's important, 60%.
Okay, but you don't know, these are all assumptions. You don't know any of that. So
That
without
is
actually
true.
doing it, you can't make these assumptions. You can't do that as an elected official.
I would say to a certain extent I can, because I've heard enough debate on both sides to know that it's pretty evenly split. I have good friends who are retired service members who think it's silly.
But
I
that's
have
anecdotal
people,
evidence.
but that's all you're saying is
But are your friends
what do
friends that
people
live in
think?
Minerva Park?
One of them is, yes.
One. Okay, so that's one. So why don't we ask
Yeah.
all of my friends, which is everybody that lives in Minerva Park, and then make a decision based on the majority, which is
Yeah.
how democratic government
So-
works.
Okay.
No,
so
it's not, but that's what elections are for, but because you can't stop every time to do a poll. And what you're going to get is not going to be an accurate.
That's controversial. Why wouldn't you take a poll?
So it's the problem is that it's not actually controversial,
I
right?
think it's
Saying it or
controversial.
not saying it doesn't change the outcome of the meeting.
I think it's controversial because I think a lot
We're
of
not
people.
talking about saying it or not saying it. We're talking about completely taking it out. Anybody has the right at any time to sit down, to
Okay.
not take part in it. That's respected. Zero issues with that. I think it's the fact of taking it out completely.
Without talking to anybody. It's not even that. It's without talking to anybody. So my thing is communication wise, repercussion wise, if you do that and you don't tell anybody and then everybody finds out, there's going to be a lot of angry people. And I don't want to deal with that. I'd rather ask ahead of time. Ask for permission and not forgiveness in this case, because I think a lot of people are going to be angry about it.
Okay, so
So
does
why would
anybody
I
have
put myself
anything?
in that situation?
I think we've heard the same stuff enough. So does anybody have any new to add? I think what I'm hearing is that for now, we'll leave it in the agenda. And you know, if anybody feels strongly enough, again, to try to climb this hill, we can take polls. But yeah, does that sound fair? Anybody have anything to say otherwise? So, Mayor Hughes, I know that, are you still here? Yeah, you're back. Diane had been maintaining the document. Are you able to make that change just to put that back in the agenda? And then I think we're ready for readings on rules of council with keeping the 5-minute change and putting back in the Pledge of Allegiance.
And then do you want me to go ahead and add the change to the Thursday meeting?
And yes, and Thursday meetings.
Okay. I know Barb watches this also, but yes, I will make sure that those get added in. And then what we can do is update the agenda for the first reading. Do you guys want to pass as an emergency? Do you guys want to waive readings?
That's
next.
what I was going to come back to, right? So for our new council people, when the legislative process, the standard legislative process is that there is 3 readings of legislation by title only. So in 3 council meetings, the title of the legislation is read into the record. People have it's been on an agenda. People have had an opportunity to review it, right? Right, over 3 consecutive meetings, and after the 3rd reading, there's a vote. If that passes with a majority of council, so 4 people of 6, it passes, right? And then it's 30 days before it is in effect, right? Because that's the citizens' 30 days right of referendum. So they have 30 days to get a petition together, get that to the Board of Elections to put a question on the next ballot. Should we overturn this law that was just passed? As council, we have a couple of opportunities to intercede on that process, right? One of them is to shorten the reading process, right? So we can, as a body, waive the rules and shorten that reading. So we can waive the rules and get rid of 1 reading. We can waive the rules and get rid of 2 readings. So we can have the 1 reading, waive the rules, all right? And that takes a supermajority. So we need 5 council people to agree to waive the readings and then vote, and then it passes or it doesn't pass, right? That just takes a regular 4 votes to pass. And then the other opportunity we have is that we can pass as an emergency. And while the word emergency starts throwing up, you know, images of dire need, what that really means in practice is that it suspends that 30-day right of referendum, right? So that it goes into effect immediately. Where this is particularly useful is if you are trying to engage in a contract for services, right? You don't want to say we're going to engage in this contract for services and have to wait 30 days for the services to begin, right? Or in a situation like this where it's rules of council, we couldn't, without an additional motion, move our meetings to Thursdays without these rules of council being enforced, right? So if we were to pass this and not pass as an emergency, it wouldn't be until mid-February that our meetings would move to Thursday, right? So,
Yeah.
and passing it as emergency is also just a regular majority. Go ahead, David.
So for the newer members, if you watch the older videos, you'll recall that I started out very uncomfortable with emergency declarations, and to an extent, I still remain that way due to the right of referendum issues. That being said, the way that we do it here, I've not noticed a pattern of, egregious behavior or, abuse of the emergency process. We do tend to use it for, entering contracts for, services that need to get going, or entering contracts so that we can, lock in a rate or ensure construction or repair starts in a timely manner. But that being said, I understand the issues that some people take with emergency declarations. Like I said, I'm still somewhat uncomfortable with some of them myself, and have, I believe, voted against one or two of them in my tenure so far. But saying an emergency declaration, I don't want to say it's, a scarier or bigger term than it really is, because it does remove the right of referendum. What I will say is, I believe that the village leadership proposing when this is done is, by and large, on the side of the angels in doing so. But all I can say is I do understand the contention with frequent use of this, because I still feel it myself.
David, that's well said. And if I can jump in on just a quick note, the term itself is more a term of art, and the majority of professional municipalities utilize emergency declarations for getting things done. And Jesse, I think since you're the legal counsel, do you have anything to add to that specifically?
No, not specifically. I think David kind of nailed it. And especially something like this, where it's really your own internal rules of council. I mean, you obviously have to make an analysis yourself of whether this is something that would even come to a referendum. But if you're comfortable with the rules setting up for your own body, then I don't see any issue with passing it by emergency.
You're muted, sir.
Sorry,
I
I'm
just
eating
wanna
my
go on
breakfast
record.
at you all. What?
I just want to go on record and say that
Yeah.
I agree with David, that in general, they make me fairly uncomfortable, but in this case, I think that would be appropriate.
Yeah, each instance will need its own review, right? Nobody's saying, when I was on council the first time and I went to a new council person training, I was in a room where, the question was asked, hey, everybody in this room who's on a village council, how much of you passed all of your legislation by emergency? And like 80% of the room raised their hand, right? That is never the situation I would like to be in, right? I think that really speaks to, groups that didn't do the legwork right. But it is, in my opinion, something to be considered when appropriate for each piece of legislation. Now, that brings us back to this piece of legislation, where we are trying to adopt the rules of council, which will set forth how we do our business for this upcoming year. And I am of the opinion that this should be in place and in effect as soon as is practicable. So I would propose that we waive readings, right? So we would need a motion to suspend the rules and waive the readings, and then pass as an emergency. So that way, as of Tuesday, all of the rules that we have adopted in this would be in effect. Does anybody have a strong feeling opposed to that? Beautiful. Look at that. Getting stuff done. All right. So, Mayor Hughes, if we can amend the agenda for Monday to include this with an intent to waive readings and pass as an emergency.
Perfect. Just so everybody's aware, I will send Chief a message and verify with him about Thursday.
Yeah.
He will also be at the meeting and express any concerns he may have, and that may or may not, which I believe, Jesse, would it be correct that we could amend it at that point to change it back to a different day?
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
So, because that would be the only part, obviously. I just want to clear it with him. Or you guys can decide that it's okay to continue if he can't do one of the meetings. We'll discuss that. I'll just verify with Chief. It should not be an issue, but you never know. I'm not sure what he does.
Very good. All right, so that hits that. Stacy had sent everybody some pictures of some pretty chairs. I don't know if I saw anything from you in that chain, Mayor Hughes. Do we know if John was ready to replace lounge chairs at the pool, or?
So I will tell you, it is not in the budget to do at this point in time. Now, is it something we can do some? Is it something that we can potentially do? Most likely, yes. We had visited this at some point in time last year, because I believe I saw something similar to this. It is needed, but it's also needed that we replace the slide, and that's what we budgeted for this year, unless somebody says, and do we really need a slide? I'm not going to live or die by either one. This is something that typically the community, I'm not trying to pass this to the community right off the bat, because I think it's something we need to figure out. Typically the chair of that particular committee, the community committee, is the one that deals with the pool. So that would be a great place if we're not ready to make a decision, or if you guys want to find out from Kim if we have money to do it or can get money to do it, we would just need to do an appropriation. So there's definitely not going to be money in there, even though it's the beginning of the year, unless we don't do the slide. Then we could.
The only thing is it's super tentative because you don't know how long those things are going to last. It's the winter time, so it's probably why they're so cheap. But that's something to discuss.
I'm there all the time, so I have a vested interest in this now. I would love some nice new.
I'll toss in my thing on it, and some of this will just be explanatory. When Mayor Hughes says we don't have the money for it, that doesn't necessarily mean we can't afford it. It means the money not appropriated into the budget.
Right.
Is what that actually means.
Thank you, Mark.
Do we know?
Yeah, and I would just say, I don't know how much loungy chairs cost. I'm looking at the pictures and they look nice. I don't know if they are nice, if they're sturdy or not, or if they're cheap aluminum and crappy fabric. But if they're, and I would definitely see if John can take a look at it. I would trust his expertise in pool lounge furniture. But $25 each seems like a really good, like sub Aldi price. If you guys have ever been to they got the little, this week we have kettlebells on sale. If I stood in line, had some buy kettlebells.
Well, it's a thrift store, so all that money also goes to charity, which is a big deal.
But $25 a piece, I don't believe that you save money by buying things on sale, because you never save money by buying things. But I think in this case, maybe it would be saving money to get them when they're cheap. And I know we put aside money in the budget this year for pool maintenance or pool. We have a pool reserve fund that was in the budget. So that might even be something that could be used for these. I'm not sure. I'd leave that up to the fiscal officer, but it might not have to be a new appropriation.
Yeah. So my question. Oh, go ahead,
Sorry,
David.
sir.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna do my one of my frequent spiels about. I mean, we're here to make life and the village better for the residents, and better pool chairs, I would say, falls under that framework. If we're going to get very generally inclusive, I would say that would be part of promoting the general welfare. The preamble of the Constitution encourages us to do.
Yeah. I think what I would like to know is how many of those kinds of chairs do we have at the pool? Like, are we talking about 50, or are we talking about 100? Are we talking about 200? That's what I don't know, to know how much I want to push on this, right? I mean, it's a difference between, are we talking about $2,500, or are we talking about $5,000? And then I would not call myself a person who is well-versed enough in pool lounge equipment to say that those are the right ones to buy. So it would be nice if we could have John opine on that, if we can get him to run down to the restore it and take a look at them quick. Because he could look at them and say, these are junk, these are, not commercial grade, and then this whole conversation is moot.
Yeah, trust the experts.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, Tiffany, is it possible to get John to take a look at them? Because if he says these are amazing, then I would push hard and try to find the money.
Right. And I think, again, I know we need to do this fast. So I'll send him a message, but I do know, and I know Jason's not here today, so it's not really fair. But that's one of the January meetings is always with John to start setting pool fees and do all of that. That meeting
Yeah.
typically falls in January. So, and
Yep.
again, we are currently, just as an FYI, we are currently working on the slide quotes right now. So if anybody has any recommendations for slides, let me know. But Barb has been working on that for me for the last couple of days, and it's a lot more expensive than I was expecting. So
It
just as an
should
FYI.
be robust
That
enough
at
that I
Resort.
can go down.
What was I believe last year we were discussing large umbrellas if possible, or that being visited in the future. Is that something is that a conversation we could revive this spring as well if we're talking about all this
Yeah,
infrastructure for the
I think
pool?
it all needs to be, I think, again, when you start talking about, Brian hit that on the head, when you start talking about, are we talking about buying 20 chairs because they're not going to match the other chairs, but are we going to keep half? Are we going to keep all of them? Yeah, what are we going to do? I mean, it's a great idea. I think we need to start looking a little bit, I would love to see some new chairs over there. So, but again, are we mixing and matching? Are we doing all that? What are we doing?
It's just like, we need more information, basically.
Yeah.
But we
Yeah,
need
I mean-
now, it's January, but creeps up on you.
Well,
yeah.
January is exactly, you should, again, that's when we start talking pool fees, because you want the pool fees out there for everybody. If we don't start moving on the slide, we're not going to have one. And you hit it on the head. If you don't start now, you're not going to have new chairs. So.
Right. Yeah, so I think we have our takeaways. We're gonna see if John will look at them. And hopefully Jason can have that community committee meeting soon, so that way that discussion can move forward. And I guess, yeah, we'll know more on Monday. Because Jason's gonna be there on Monday, yeah?
Jason will actually not be there on Monday. Jason is, yeah, he had already told me he wasn't going to be there. I knew this going
Okay.
into it. But I would say, I don't think it's going to be a little bit before he's back, but it's by the second meeting. So hopefully by the end of the month, we'll have that
Okay.
meeting.
No problem then. All right, then I think that was all the things I had intended to cover in this meeting. Oh, Eric, you have building stuff you wanted to talk to us about.
Yes, sir. It's
There we
my
go. I
pleasure.
cede the floor to you.
Yes, thank you very much. It's my pleasure to show everyone and kind of go through this. And I think hopefully everybody was able to, I heard there were some PDF issues to open in some cases. So, but I'm hoping everyone, was able to do that. If not, we can give people hard copies, or we can try to
I'm going
fix
to
your
stop.
PDF
I'm going
issues.
to stop you right there.
Yes.
I did send everyone the link last night. It was probably later last night.
Okay,
I don't know if anybody's had a chance to look at their emails, but I actually did forward that all the way. Every single council person, chief, I did forward it with the link.
okay, good.
Because I missed the fact that I don't know what everybody should have it. And you just
I've
click on the
started
link and click download.
Yeah, I've started
good.
looking at it. It's very in-depth, very detailed. I think it's a gorgeous plan for what it's worth.
Yes.
Wonderful. Let's take, I appreciate that early comment. Our architects, I feel, also have done a nice job in working with the village and getting us to this point. And really, this is kind of I know several, obviously some of the council members are brand new. And so because we're crossing over, a lot of this work, in the brief, well, it's a long history, but in the brief history of this part of the project got started prior to your tenure. So you will be voting on the finalized product. At this stage, there were a number of changes that were made to the floor plan per earlier council comments, and those have all been incorporated. Where we can kind of see and if you look at this one, you can see the old building is in the gray, and this is how the new building will lay out around it and upon it. And I don't know if this is all final at this point. Does anyone have any other additional comments on the floor plan or questions at this stage?
I do.
Okay.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so one thing, I just kind of ran it by one of my friends as an architect. So one of the things, it's just like a weird mom thing. I was wondering if there would be a changing table in each bathroom through the community building. And
The
if
answer is
not,
yes.
I would like one.
The answer is yes. They've changed those. The bathrooms originally were one kind of family joint bathroom and two of the larger type stall incorporated bathrooms. And one of earlier council's comments was to kind of make them all private. And so that is what has happened here. So you have 3 of those. The family one definitively will have, as noted here on the plan, will definitively have your changing table and everything. In fact, I think well, it's not on this one, but yes, they will. We'll make sure of it.
Okay, yeah, I want all 3, just because the thought process is if we have a children's party or whatnot, you're gonna
Sure.
need more than one at the same time, because children.
Yes.
And the other thing that I have a question about is, can you go through, just as a point of reference,
Yes.
that side door on the right where you bring in, criminals, I guess, I don't know what to call them, perpetrators.
Well, people who are arrested at that moment.
Yeah, yes, arrested people. Can you just go over that floor plan for me? Because I don't completely understand that.
Sure. I'll be happy to discuss that. So what typically happens in police stations, and in the modern design with community buildings, because we can go through a number of them around Columbus, in our, sister municipalities, whether OBADs or POW, the stations that are have adjoining, public areas do have some separation, as you see here. So the community and public entrance are over here. The police is over here. And then this covered carport is for the police cruisers specifically. And so when they bring a prisoner in, they will bring in through the secure entry, which is more of a Sally Port type entryway. And then this is direct access to processing and holding, essentially. So they would process the suspect in here, and they will go ahead and, make sure he doesn't have anything on him. They generally do a pre-search before they get him in the car, but now they go through processing, fingerprinting, anything they need to do prior to transport down to the jail, which is the next stage if they're going to go through a full arrest at that time. We do not have a day or multi-day holding cell built into this. This is just a holding area for processing purposes. That's a very different design standpoint.
And that bathroom in the processing room,
Right here.
I'm hoping that will be like molded plastic or something very, very durable. You can just hose it down, because
I
I mean, if law
guarantee, Chief,
enforcement,
yes.
Yeah,
The
good.
police are all over that, and the architects will utilize best standards, and the chief went through all of his needs with them. So definitively they will be incorporating that, obviously non-damaging and durable structures and safe walls and all that kind of stuff that they can.
yeah, I mean, if processing, detainees is anything like processing involuntary medical holds or,
Yes.
psychiatric cases,
Oh,
you're going to want that
yes.
room to be nothing but either cement or plastic, where you can
No,
hose down with
absolutely.
a drain in the bottom.
Absolutely. No, and David, just on the side, I did a couple of years stint as a security officer night shift at OSU Hospital. We utilized a rubber room a lot before transport over to neuroscience, and that was an experience in and of itself. So non-cooperative
I've done a few
individuals.
different psychiatric nursing jobs. I get you.
Yes. So anyways, yes. So this is all, and at this point, the prisoners are not brought into the rest of the secure facility. These are all controlled doors. This is a modern state-of-the-art control system. Like right now, I can just tell you right now, it's a very different system downstairs. Old, not, everything is, it's not as well controlled. Let's put it that way, just because this is an old structure and these things were not built into a design 80 years ago. Right. So
No, they chain you to a bench.
Yeah. This is and you're in an area that is mixed with everyone else, officers, weapons. Here when they take them in here, there's a separate, to give you an idea, the officer put their weapons into a secure locker, and that way, there's no way for that even if someone overpowered an officer in here, they can't get out. They can't get an officer's weapon. They can't do any of that in here. So this is all done with modern standards in mind. It keeps the officers especially safer. It keeps the community safer. And so that's part of the issue, part of the item with this kind of redesign is we make it better. So did I answer your questions, Councilwoman, or do you have anything else here specific?
No, that's perfect.
Wonderful.
I know,
Yes.
I mean, not to pour salt in the wound, but just to answer people's questions, I do want some sort of documentation that says that flipping the building or whatnot would be up to $100,000 more due to topography. But it's just,
I will reprovide, which I think you weren't there at the time, obviously. I will reprovide to everyone the architect's assessment those different costs in the different suggestions of what would be done. So yeah, this is we're trying to obviously keep the cost down, which we're going to get to here at the end of the presentation. So this in general is the final design, controls, this is a much, obviously for the community's purposes, this is a much nicer area to be able to utilize as a whole for private events. This kitchen area here, break room, opens up nicely into the community room. We have a nice storage area to remove chairs and move things around at will. Everything opens up onto the deck. There's a nice roll up door here as well. So this on nice days when we have, people want to use it for weddings, they want to use it for birthdays. This all opens up wonderfully. And it's a great design for community usage. And so that was definitely very important, aside from the separation with the police and getting the modern facility, the community usage, of this site was equally thoughtful in how the final design would work. Sorry, I'll just kind of, and so that by utilizing that deck and everything out here, this is, just from a view standpoint, I know there was some concern about how we were doing this early on, which is why there's questions about flipping the building, but this is going to be cleared to some degree. This view, which for those of you, I know everyone's visited the chambers at this point, and has seen the window view, is, quite wonderful, out here. And this will still be preserved from deck and the opened up community room, in here as well. And vegetation here will be cleared out to some degree. There's a lot of crappy vegetation. Once this is cleared out and you just have tree, you have a very nice view, to these directions as well. So this is all to be preserved from the design standpoint. And there was a nice little walkway that was to continue out here because we have this open space that was to go around here. And so there's access around the building for people and everything as well to utilize the site.
Yeah, and if anybody like me has environmental concerns, the clearing of that area is not going to be particularly environmentally degrading. That
Honeysuckle.
Most American woodlands, and this spot is no exception, is almost completely overwhelmed understory with invasive honeysuckle species. When we get to the stage of clearing it or replanting it, I'll be around to make sure that the honeysuckle is staying down as best I can anyway.
Yes, absolutely. One thing I wanted to note too is we can make a final decision later from a bid standpoint. We have two different options for the signs that are going to be bid with a package. Since you'll be investing in a new monument sign out front, it's always nice to have one of the community announcement boards on there as well too. So looks like a lot of communities now that's included. That adds some cost to the sign, obviously, but for standard monument signs with the base and everything, you're already spending around 20 grand. So we'll it's going to be minuscule compared to the overall price of the project. And it's I think a smart thing to invest in, is it just is another form of communication. So
Would it be a digital sign?
yes, absolutely. Those come in multiple forms, and we'll get, this is not something that's critical from the early decision standpoint, other than it goes into the bid and we get the bids back and people give us our options at that point. Can always be added in and more detail given later, and changes can be made. So, but yes, we just wanted to make sure that was noted for council, because I think it's a very good thing to have with your new community building.
And then any landscaping thoughts? How does that work? Is that a separate?
Yes. So, and we can get you a more detailed landscaping plan, but that's, all of, obviously the memorial here is left. The sidewalk is going to be replaced as part of this whole process. But yes, there's new landscaping up and around the structure. And we will get I don't think the landscaping plan was included here specifically, other than just the site plan plantings, which you can see, but I'll get something from the architect and get that sent around so you can see what the initial plan is.
And this will be following the native plant resolution, seeing as this falls under municipal project, I'm assuming.
Yes, I know that was
Excellent.
mentioned at the meeting. I'll double check that, obviously, when I pull the landscaping plan to get it over to you guys.
Thank you so much. I'm wonderful.
Yep. Oh, got some more for you. So we got the most important part here, which is, one reason we're showing this to you today is we want to definitely get feedback. And I know, David, you were excited to send us feedback already on the scheme that you liked. But we're presenting, from an architectural standpoint and aesthetic, we are sending to you the schemes, the renderings, and would like council input on them. And again, you can send me, if you want to give it some thought and send me or send Tiffany emails, we will compile those and get those to the architect if there's any specifics. But these are what right now with the materials on the outside are being proposed. And David, I wanted to make sure we were clear. We're not using real teak. It's a teakish wood, right? So I don't believe it's going to be farm teak, because you're right. There's stuff you just cannot get now because it is illegal.
Oh, absolutely. All the real teak is coming out of, nature preserves in Brazil in the middle of the night.
I
That
think
is-
all the siding options we have here are best described as vinyl, I would imagine, and designed to look like things. We're not actually getting stone and brick and real
You're
wood.
getting you're going to get real facade stuff. You're not you will get what we call lick and stick in many cases. That's just saves cost, but you're not getting vinyl. I can guarantee you that.
Well-
You're going to get something you touch, and it's going to be a brick facade.
My question is, can we get a point of reference of which one is lower maintenance? As David kind of pointed out, that's what I
We made sure that was a clear point. Both of these, I will ask if there's actually a difference. Both of these are I believe are low maintenance. I'll see if there's one that's specifically lower, but we don't have to we talked about that. We don't want to have to repaint, spend money. When we use real wood products, like real cedars, they require a certain amount of painting and stuff. A lot of this, I know I spoke about cement fiber siding, which once we get a color, in it, lasts you for as long as the roof, right? I mean, you'll never have to deal with it other than probably power wash it off from dirt and crap, here and there, and that's it. But we'll verify that comment. No worries.
The roof is going to be metal, correct?
Correct.
Is
It's a
good.
nice metal roof, excellent insulation underneath of that, which obviously, is important since we're reusing, our primary roof, decking. We're adding insulation over the top in order to meet our energy code requirements, and will also not sound necessarily like a ping, ping, ping of a real tin roof, that was on a farmhouse. So it's going to be a nice roof. It'll last you 100 years.
question, probably outlandish, but are solar panels something we considered I know there's a lot of government grants for them.
So this is a very good question, Ms. Koss. I'm a big fan of, in here in the village, we're big fans administratively of, you'll notice a lot of solar panels have been going up. We try to make it as simple as possible for residents to put panels up, and there's no HOA here, obviously, to regulate people. So I think that's a nice thing. Now, what I will say to you is, we did not include solar panels on this cost because the building cost these days is getting a little out there, right? I mean, we're running into a lot of, unfortunately, the time frame we're running into here in our current society is that it's getting more and more expensive every day we wait to build the building. And that's just the truth. Now, what I will tell you is that, yes, if council wants to add solar panels, we can look at it and bring someone in. There are some extra complications because we have a lot of trees in the back facing the south, right? So we could add those over the least amount of area, where it's covered by trees, but we have to have someone look at that and tell us their opinion of whether it's even, worthwhile for us to put them on there. So, because I've actually been through a solar project when the last rendition of the last recession in Powell, and it was a very good project. We ended up taking them off that roof and putting them onto a solar structure, which they use in their park now. So, it can be done. It just depends on what the survey of the sunlight says.
I think that's something I would want to explore, but I had it done for my house and it took half an hour for them to determine whether my house gets enough sun for them to be feasible.
Good. Yeah, no, we can definitely have someone come out and look at it. No problem. I just want to emphasize that probably from a bidding standpoint, it will not be on the bid. It's something council will need to conclude they want to do, once we have a roof on, and then we get it installed post completion.
Yeah, and once we figure out the tree situation too.
Yes. So in general, and again, I don't need to do this today, are there any comments as to which anyone likes scheme A to scheme B better? David has chimed in for scheme B.
that was only focusing on the teak versus cedar. I thought
Okay.
it would be real, which
Okay.
shows how little I know about architecture.
No worries.
I guess B is, they're both beautiful. I mean, I'll stick with B.
I feel
I
like this is that, oh, go ahead, Anna, Stacy.
I would like to stay in a more mid-century, not that I think there's much difference. I think I would just aesthetics wise would go with A, because I feel like our community is a pretty cool mid-century modern overall community with a lot of really cool mid-century modern houses. So I would want that community building to kind of echo that a little bit. Like the pink community building now is awesome to me. So I would almost want to go in even more A direction, even if those were my two choices, but maybe even a pop-up color would be cool.
I'm not sure that there's actually a difference between A and B from where I'm sitting, so I'm fine with either one.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is like one of those spot the difference pictures, and man, I would fail on this one, so I am 100% indifferent.
I
will
like
go
Good
with-
with either one.
I like B because it seems that the slightly darker theme, I suspect, would require less maintenance than the brighter colors. But again, if these materials are as fantastic as Garmin Miller, sources them from normally, and they've done nothing but great work, I wouldn't fight over either of them.
Is
And I
there
do love
energy
Country Mod 5.
consideration with a darker colored roof, like sunlight wise versus like a gray? And does anybody care about that? Just me?
whatever you lose in the summer, you get back in the winter, right? I'd
Well,
imagine
and
if
that's the
you're
thing. So this has been engineered now with the way that energy codes work to where it's a non-difference.
Yeah.
Right? So the dark roof, because of the insulation and stuff like that, and I will double check that, but that's all been engineered by the mechanical engineers at this stage.
Still would want to verify that because that affects my decision. But I guess I'm the odd woman out. But I like A because I think it echoes a little bit more mid-century than B.
I don't think anybody would fight you on
No.
A being selected. I love mid-century modern myself. It's one of the, I mean, it was the last good architectural movement in the United States. So yeah.
All right. Very good. Well, like I said, we'll get a couple answers back, and then we'll finalize with the architect as they're eager to get out the bid. And if it's, I'm not sure this particular choice will hold them up because I think it's just optioned on the bid, but we will get an answer back to them quickly once we get some answers to you. So thank you very much.
Do we need to pass legislation to put this out to bid?
No, that was all part of your original contract.
I
That's
just
all
wanted
part
to
of
make
the-
sure.
Yep. Well, I appreciate that. So now we will get to kind of the next stage, because this is going to go out to bid here in probably a week, and we'll have it out there for probably 30 days. So we will get it back in February. At that point, we'll spend a few weeks with staff and council. You're going to get some rating sheets. We're going to go through the bid. We'll probably have, a couple meetings, with a couple of different, we can do it committee wise. We can talk about process at that point, but in general, we'll give you some guidance. You'll give us back the rating, and then from there, we will select a bidder in this case. And at that point, then council will vote, and I would guess in March at some point, as to accept the project. Okay, and that will also concurrently be a financing instrument of some type that would go along with that. So, and we will get Emmett Kelly with Frost Brown Todd has been working with their financial advisors and staff, and they have prepared a report, and staff is going to meet with them to finalize that this week, and then we will get that out to you after we have a chance to review it. So I will tell you at this stage that the number that came back from the architect for construction and everything that goes into this based on the modern conditions that we're running into is about 2.1 million. Okay, for everything there. Now, before anyone loses their stuff, I will simply say to everyone that part of what we're going to bring back to you are the options for how it be financed. And I believe, from what I understand, and I could be wrong, but my hope is that we do not have to touch the general fund at all in this case. And so there would be a way to bond on TIF revenues. We know conservatively, the TIF over the next 25 years is going to bring in at least $13 million. Okay. And so even if I add in a 10%, which I would, in this particular case, want to add in the architect's, 10% on top of that, so another 200,000, the project is going to be around probably up to 2.3 million for everything. I would say that is a small number to bond out of the TIF if we're able to do that. And we're going to bring that back to you. So your general fund never has to be touched. And there'll be some other options with that too, because we're also have asked them to look at how we also roll several items, because when you do a bond, you want to get as many good sized projects in as you can when you bond it. And one of those items that we would put into that as well is lake rework, because I think, at this point, unless you're going to let it become what it is, which is we're moving towards a bog, we have to re-engineer the lakes properly to get them back to a certain depth. And I know it's been talked about ad infinitum, but you're at about $1 million project number for that too. And so, and there may be some additional things to talk about with that, but those are the two major projects, the community building and then the lake that we have in front of us. And we will bring back, along with everything else here, the financial advisor's recommendation for how this would get structured going down the path.
Either we dredge it or we lose it. So
Well, yeah, and that's something for you to decide too. But what I'm saying is, from a financial instrument standpoint, when you're doing one big project and you're not hitting against your general fund and you're bonding it out, you may as well do several, because you've got a lot of space. Even if we added a couple more projects and to this whole thing, you'd still be well within your $13 million in change and able to carry that utilizing your TIF money. So, and that, quite frankly, was the purpose of it, to get some big projects financed and done. And so I just want to make everyone aware of that at this point. And the world is not, with construction especially, is not getting any cheaper. As many of you remember, the process started at the beginning of my tenure back in 16-17 when we looked at this, and Brian was serving on that council at that time. And at that time, we had a project that was about 1.4 to 1.5 million. Now you can see the difference that has gone up significantly just in a few years' time, and mixing in everything else out there, where we knew a new construction structure, brand new structure, even a hybrid one, is going to cost you more. And this building, I know most of you are aware of kind of the building state. It's an old building. It doesn't meet any modern codes. You can't do ADA properly in this building. There's a lot, we can't handle prisoners or police properly in this building. There's a lot of need here, and that need is not and has not gone away. And that was definitive through the process getting us to this point. Not going to get any cheaper, and it's not going to get any better. And quite frankly, you're at this point where you need to make a decision to improve the community. And I think you have the means to do so, but I will wait for the finance advisor's final, report on that to get to you all. And then we can have I'm sure a good discussion in how we move forward at that point.
Okay. So you answered some of my questions. What's going on with planning and zoning? Can we throw that amphitheater in there too, or is that a separate project?
You can, okay, well, good side question. So the amphitheater is seen as a kind of thanks to Brady's assistance, and thanks to, one of our, former chairs, Donna, they put that application in with the state, and that's handled through kind of a separate process with the capital budget. And so there's several things that kind of come down through that. And we're in that process of getting that application back to them. I think we've kind of got it all settled with what the costs are going to be. And it's going to be, a project that's going to be it's going to be around 50 to 60 grand in total. And there's a match, from the community. So, at the end of the day, our total costs come in about 30 grand. So this is not a huge multi-million-dollar project over there. And we can keep reapplying over the years for kind of additions to it, which is a nice thing, or things that are attached to it, whether the pathway or things like that, gazebo, things of that nature, because it has a historical precedence to it, which is what they're looking for in these particular applications. But honestly, if you want to add, again, first getting the report back from the financial advisor, let's assume that we can hit against the TIF. We can add multiple projects to that. Council can certainly prioritize those projects, and you can take funding out of that since you're already funding it that way, right? So there's definitely a way to do it. So if you said, hey, I want to put 100 grand towards the amphitheater in that several $1 million bond that we're going to put up, I think that's pretty small and easy. Something we can definitely discuss. So
And then last question, are we putting a fountain back in? Is that something we consider? Is that in the budget?
We can put a fountain back in. I know that there was a lot of, it was not acted on, and Mayor, did you want to add anything to that? Because I think anything can be done that you want to do, right? But Mayor, was there any thoughts? I didn't know if we had anything in our budget this year to move forward on a fountain.
Yeah.
So, no, there's nothing in the budget, and I'm gonna use Mark's words. It's not that we can't do it or we don't have the funds. It's just that we've just quit talking about it.
Yeah.
Once we realized that it wasn't actually in the plans 2 years ago, I think that everybody just kind of quit talking about it until we get further. So I think it's definitely, I can't imagine doing it without them. I think
Yeah,
it's kind of where I'm at. I guess I envisioned that would be done as part of the project.
Yeah, and I agree. I think you could. I think it goes part and parcel with the fact that we do need to do some dredging with the lake, because right now you're not seeing very deep, right? Footish in most of the
Exactly.
lake. It's just not, it's a strange situation out there.
Yes.
So I think, yes, I think it's perfectly right to say we'd like a fountain back. It adds a nice aesthetic, right? I mean, it would look great once the building is completed. A lot of
Would
pluses.
irrigate the water too.
Yeah,
once
irrigate
it's
the water, so
supposed to
keep the
be
bugs
fixed.
down.
Yep,
Yeah.
a lot of, we do have an aerator out there, I believe. But yes,
too.
it does, it has some function. So I think there's a lot of positives. So yes, that one's, again, not much like the amphitheater, you know, we're not getting into high costs. And like the mayor said, I think we can add it in at the time that's appropriate, and we can ask our lake guys, you know, can we do one before? Just remember, there's a cost of yanking it out when they go dredge, and we got to put it back in. So it might, you know, from a timing standpoint, it might be good to just plan on picking one out, and we can definitely take council's input and then stick it in there once we get to the lake project completed, assuming that's what we're going to do.
Mhm.
Eric, I'm gonna real quick hijack and just turn things a totally 90-degree thing while Mayor Hughes is still on here. Tiffany, I noticed the website says we're currently out of COVID tests. Did we not
Correct.
get the 1,200 this week, or did we get the 1,200 and they are already gone?
No, we got to the warehouse and they ran out and
Oh.
actually didn't have any. So now we're getting them the 18th.
Okay, I was just concerned that if they had gone that quick, that we would
Yeah.
definitely need to put in some sort of, you have to come to the desk and sign
Correct.
and not just walk in and grab 3 boxes and walk out.
Yeah,
'Cause, you know, that's
you are correct.
ridiculous. Okay, that was my only real quick thing. Sorry, Eric, I'll turn it back to you for what we were actually
No worries,
talking
sir.
about.
Appreciate that. So I don't know if anyone, I've got a couple action items to get back to you on the questions. We'll do that this week, no problem. Does anyone have any other immediate questions, comments, anything you'd like to ask?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, one last thing. That sign, is that like just a typical park sign and we have to go with that, or can we make it a little more mid-century?
Oh, no, this is just the architect's suggestion. We can do multiple things, right?
Okay.
So, and what I would suggest in this case, why don't you send me an email if you have any examples, and I will gladly show those to the architect, and they'll take it from there and get some suggestions back, right?
I have no examples yet, but
Okay.
again, my whole thing is I want to preserve kind of the feel
Sure.
of Menlo Park, so I think it should be
Okay.
a little bit more mid-century.
I will ask them to get just a typical design that they threw in there for the purposes of a holding spot. So no worries. We can, like I said, when we typically in these projects, there's a set aside for a budget. We'll get an idea of what that is, you know, when it goes out. Obviously, it's going to go out to bid. We want to have a holding point in it. And then we work with a sign company. You know, this is one of the last things that we do, you know, a few months out, we work with a sign company, they fabricate it, you know, and then it gets installed on top of the base. So that's typically what's happened. Anything else? Okey-dokey. Well, everyone, I appreciate the time, and we'll get some stuff back to you this week so we can keep going forward.
All right. One other thing that I had come to mind while Eric was talking, Ohio Municipal League usually runs new council person training sessions. I checked their website. They haven't posted dates yet. It looks like their website implies that they're looking to run them in March, April, and May. So I know I'll keep looking, and if Mayor Hughes, you can keep looking at their website, because I know I went to it when I joined council my first time, and it was really useful, and I would go again because, you know, it is now a decade later and the world has changed and training is good. So just keep that in mind as they become available. It'd be great if everybody could go to that.
Yes, because I actually thought I had an email that said dates. So
Oh.
let me look.
Yeah.
And let me go through my emails.
If you have dates, that would be awesome, and get those out to us so that we can all go as fits our schedule. I think unless anybody has something else they were looking to bring forward, I think that's it. So here's your chance. Speak now or hold your peace. Going once, going twice. All right, then I move that we adjourn this council work session.
Real
Second.
quick, meeting is on Monday, correct?
Meeting is on Monday this time around.
And Tiffany, I know you had asked about this. Let's do legislation before the second meeting.
Okay.
Obviously, we're not gonna do it Monday. We have nothing to talk about. But by the
Perfect.
second meeting, we might.
Perfect. And then as everybody sees fit, you can email me or just wait till Monday night or whatever you guys want to do to talk about when you want to schedule yours for.
Okay.
Sounds good. All right,
Awesome.
everybody, I am stopping recording, so the meeting is over. And I really do